about 12 minutes left. Mr. Chairman, I want to go back to your statement that the American people want action. Does that also correlate with the American people being willing to pay higher prices because of energy legislation?
I sincerely doubt that the American people are willing to pay what this is really going to cost them. I will be introducing in the next little bit a carbon tax bill, just to sort of see how people really feel about this. And it will impose, for example, on gasoline a 50-cent tax. It also will place a very substantial tax on CO2 emissions, amounting to a double-digit tax on tons of CO2 emitted. And I think when you see the criticism I get, you'll understand that you will be getting the answer to your question.
Where does the leadership come from then, if in fact global warming is a problem you think must be fixed, policy has to change, and it will in fact cost more, but the American public isn't willing to pay the price?
That's a very nice question, isn't it?
Have no answer?
You ask, where does the leadership come from? I'm going to try and give it. I'm hoping that I will be supported by the leadership in the House and the Senate. I'm hoping that I will be supported by the White House. I'm hoping that the American people will endorse the idea. We'll find out whether the American people and whether their leaders here in Washington and elsewhere around the country are willing to support what they have to do to really address the problem.
Mr. Chairman, can you clarify what you're trying to do here? Are you saying that the way to go the best way to go from a policy standpoint is to have a substantial carbon tax on gasoline or oil, because that's the best way to achieve the ends of reduced greenhouse emissions and so forth? Or are you basically trying to prove that other people who are pushing ambitious global warming legislation are perhaps unrealistic? Is that what you're trying to prove?
Not trying to prove anything. I'm just trying to have people see what is the best approach to address the problem that everybody concedes is upon us. Now, having said that, I'm not trying to make any statements at all. I am saying this: we're going to write the best bill we can in the committee. We're going to present it to the floor and to the House at the earliest time. The legislation, as you very well know, is always the art of the possible. And we will get as many votes for the best bill as we possibly can. We will find out whether we can do so and whether the bill is satisfactory when the process is completed. This is a fairly evenly divided House, and it is representative of a country of 300 million people who have widely divergent views on the basis of history, jobs, employment, the concerns of their regions. And all of these things are going to come together in whatever it is we're able to put together when we have completed our legislation. But the legislation is going to be as complete, as fair as I can make it. And I'm going to try and see to it that everybody puts their pence in the collection box. And I'm going to try and see that nobody is destitute or bankrupt, and I'm going to try and see to it at the same time that everybody not only contributes, but that they are fairly treated. And I've made that point time after time.
And Mr. Chairman, what would be your expected timetable to begin this process, and do you have a sense of how long it'll play out through the fall and into next spring?
I think this is probably the question that I've gotten more times in my career than anything else that they've ever laid upon me. In a nutshell, what I'm going to do is and my answer is always this: I'm going to move the best bill I can just as fast as I know how.
Does the fact that there's a presidential election going on during the time period help or hurt the effort?
Presidential elections are notorious for their adverse impact on good government in this country. And I think you should anticipate that it will be a major curse and a major blight. So in addition to all things else, I've got to move at least a blight on legislation and the legislative process. So I've got to move this just as fast as I can to try and get ahead of the election, which for all intents and purposes is going to go into high gear, I would suspect, within the next couple of months. I would note to you that you should anticipate that in February of next year, you're going to be looking at a very, very real campaign going on, with possibly even the winners of the different primaries and so forth decided in February.
5 minutes left.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask you a question that sort of has to, a bit more in-house in the Capitol
Sure.
kind of a question?
Sure.
The Speaker created or moved to create at the beginning of the year a special select committee on energy independence and global climate change, and that caused some heartburn in some quarters of the Energy and Commerce Committee, and I think you had some concerns about it. I wondered, 6 months after that committee's been up and running, if you've changed your mind about it, if you've seen any evidence that it's produced some contribution to the debate on the issues that we're talking about?
Well, I thought a very generous observation about this committee. I pointed out that I thought that they were going to be about as useful as feathers on a fish. And I told everybody who would listen that I thought that they were either going to be underfoot or in the hair of the people who were charged with doing the legislative work. I have seen nothing that they have done that I frankly would want to take credit for. If I were in that committee, I would have long since asked for the privilege of being removed from it, because quite frankly, I think it's an embarrassment to everybody.
Because?
But they've done nothing. They have no legislative jurisdiction or authority, and they're just simply running around making speeches and thumping the tub. And